Okay, there's something really important about this book. I need to take it back to the library. I know, some people may be thinking, Mike, what's a library? But really, this is the latest book from author, conference speaker, and leading SEO expert Ash Nalawalla. Two very interesting things about this book. First, it's not a how-to book. There are plenty of resources to learn how to do SEO. But this book focuses more on the why-do and less on the how-to. And that's important because the intended audience is not essentially the SEO community, although I dare say it comes in handy for everyone in the industry. It's really intended more for the C-suite and senior manager to understand not just the importance of SEO, but also the structure, the management of in-house teams, as well as the management of agencies and vendors. In fact, the most important instruction the book gives, if you take a look, is right there on the cover. It says, SEOs, buy this book for your manager. And the second of the important things is when you finish this one, be ready for a follow-up and another after that, as there are 3 planned in the series. Hang on, there is a third important thing when I think about it. The foreword to this book is written by none other than the founder of Pubcon, Brett Tabke himself. So, once again, let's whoosh on down to Austin, Texas and meet Ash live in person at Pubcon. So this is my friend Ash. And we have known each other, I don't know, since Pubcon.
2003.
2003, wow. Yeah. That's a long time. So we haven't seen each other for a while, like I say, but it's great that at this particular event that you managed to fly yourself all the way from Australia just to come here for this one. Anyway, you and I know each other. We've been around in the industry for a while. For the benefit of the people who are watching this, who don't know who you are or what you do you want to just give us a little bit of background? And then we'll go into the book that probably explains what you're about to say right now.
Yeah, so this is my 4th career, and I fell into it by accident, and which is partly why I named my book The Accidental SEO Manager.
Which is a beautiful title.
Yeah. So, without going into my entire history, but my first career was as an accountant in a chartered accountant's office. Second career was the Air Force, the Australian Air Force, Royal Australian Air Force.
It's getting more exciting as we go along here.
Then I was a traditional marketer, and then I fell into SEO by accident.
Yeah, because somebody had to do it.
Well, I worked for Macromedia, which is now part of Adobe.
Adobe, yeah.
And I was the CRM manager for Asia Pacific. And I'd done a fantastic CRM lead generation campaign, even if I say so myself. But we generated $8 million worth of leads.
Wow.
I was absolutely on top of the world, and suddenly the whole regional head office was laid off. All of us.
Wow.
Because they hired a new vice president based in Singapore, and he wanted locals that he knew. So here I am, an expert CRM person. So I set up a website that is still my primary domain for email. It has never transacted because I'd optimized it so well for CRM consultant as a search term that someone in America spotted me. And they said, oh, can you do SEO for my client? I said, sure. I did that, but the client was so impressed, they said, can you do our PPC? I said, I'm a CRM consultant.
But how much are you paying?
They said, no, here's the login, just have a go at it. And I did. They liked that.
Yep.
And to cut a long story short, that's how I ended up becoming an SEO person.
It's interesting that you mentioned Macromedia because, yes, it was acquired by Adobe, but I was using Macromedia and in fact knew the wife of the founder of Macromedia, believe it or not, way back in the day. And when I first started in the industry, they had a little program called Home Site, which was
yes.
the main, yeah, you remember?
Yes.
Home Site. And then they had something else called Cold Fusion.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
which was the middleware, which was the death of SEO. So maybe you learned that along the way. But most people don't realize that they had Photoshop and Flash and all of that sort of stuff that eventually transferred over to Adobe.
Well, I'll tell you an embarrassing part of that Macromedia story for me. One of our products was Flash.
Yeah.
And we used to sponsor a web competition for Flash websites. And so all these companies had built their entire website with Flash.
Yeah, I remember the competitions as well.
And I was one of the judges. And today I cringe at the thought that people would build the website because I wasn't an SEO at the time.
Exactly, and I was an action script guy myself when I first started, so I built a lot of stuff in Flash. And then I realized that there was a lot of talk in the SEO industry that Google didn't index Flash, which was not true, by the way, because they could index anything. There just wasn't enough textual content. In fact, you'll remember a guy called Matt Cutts,
yes,
who worked for Google back in the day. Matt was kind of the voice of Google, and he and I were doing an interview. I think this was like, I don't know, mid-2000s or something, and this subject came up in the conversation. We both started laughing because I said that Google can index Word documents, Excel documents, PowerPoint, all of these kind of things, and yet people seem to think that you can't index Flash, but you can. He said, yes, if you want to find a Flash site in Google, just type the words loading. And I said, or you could have skip intro. I'm like, you think about all of those Flash sites. So that's really interesting because most of the people that I know who've been in the industry for a long time, you say you come from being an accountant, they come from all different areas. It's not like they all came from a technology or a design or marketing. In fact, I once actually was doing a panel and sorry, it's just talking to you now, bringing some of these memories back, thinking about this. And I was doing this panel, and I remember saying, and you don't have to be a rocket scientist to be an SEO. And then I introduced the next guest, and she said, by the way, in my previous career, I was a rocket scientist. And I said, seriously? And she said, yes, I used to do trajectory for Patriot missiles. So it goes to prove the point. So you've had this amazing career that kind of, like you say, started by accident. How did the book come around? I mean, why was it that you decided that there's a lot of books out there, and yours is like I said, the title explains that I'm doing this, I'm successful, but that's not what they intended to do.
Yeah. So out of my 22 plus years as an SEO, I worked roughly 7 years in agencies, a little bit as a private consultant, but most of the remaining years were in-house in large companies. And at different places, I realized that the problem came from higher up because different companies had different problems, but I came to the realization that many C-suites had ticked a box that SEOs taken care of by someone, either an employee or an agency or a consultant, but that's all they wanted to know about it. They'd
literally check the box.
They've checked the box, don't tell me anymore, just get on with the work. But I've been in different situations where I had internal blockers, and the blockers were all trying to do the right thing for themselves or for their silo. So I had people in IT who would reject one of my Jira tickets or say, okay, you've been deprioritized because of some new product feature. Tell me in dollar terms, how many more dollars will we make if we do your SEO fix compared to this new feature?
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know. Well, at the time I didn't know. Today in my session I'm going to show how you can measure what the difference of one position in the Google SERP can be calculated in terms of dollar terms. So I've learned to do some of these things. So we had blockers of other types, like legal would come and say, you can't say best because you cannot prove that our product is the best. So sometimes there would be valid reasons for blocking. Sometimes you could negotiate with legal and say, look, if I put it in the title tag, no one's going to really notice it on the web page because it's all hidden by the browser. And they would say, okay. So at many other places, the blockers could have been product owners. And for example, I've had a situation where faceted navigation went crazy. And Google could create zillions of pages for every permutation.
Right.
Which is not a good thing. It's thin content. But it was nearly impossible. I don't say impossible, but you had to fight every step of that way. And eventually you got some kind of a compromise. So I say that I've written this book, and there are 2 more to come, for an audience that won't buy them. The audience for my books therefore becomes the SEOs, because I don't write how to perform SEO. I talk about why SEO is important.
And that's a really important thing in itself. I say that a lot. You know, there are lots of people that do the how-to, but the why-do is really important, you know.
And I just turned 70, so I'm not even doing this to start a new career as a book author or join a great company or anything like that. It's my legacy to the world of companies, that is, that SEO needs a champion in the C-suite. Whether you call them a chief webmaster or a chief web officer, whatever title you want, if it's got a chief in front of it and they sit at that table, SEO will get far more importance rather than being allocated at a fairly junior position, as happens in many large companies.
So that's why I think, I mean, I fully understand you saying that you wrote the book and that people wouldn't buy it, because I've done the same thing. You know, I wrote a book that was probably the first book at the time that explained SEO and the underlying science of information retrieval, and for people who were trying to fully understand how search engines worked at the time, it sold like crazy to them. But trying to get a CMO to look at it, he wouldn't, because it seemed like it was going to be too technical, you know. So maybe the title for your next book should be, read this book and lose weight and become more popular with the opposite sex or something.
Yeah, that would say.
Exactly, and do some SEO, and maybe that will do.
Do some TikTok videos.
But what about the company? I mean, you actually do work as an SEO still. You're not retired yet, and you're looking great, by the way. Tell us a bit about the area that you're doing SEO in now, and what some of those challenges are like, and how you're still overcoming those.
So I gave the example of working with other departments, and progress is made in small steps. So because we had a lot of URLs, and this is public knowledge because anyone can query us in Google, and so we had to block Google from seeing a lot of these pages, and tremendous progress has been made. I think there were like 220 million pages when I joined the company. We brought it down to like 4 or 5 million, which is a far more reasonable number.
That's pruning somewhat. Yeah.
And what it has meant is that Google is now able to discover other pages that it wasn't discovering fast enough.
Exactly.
Namely reviews and
so I do think there's a bit of a myth there that's still about the more content that you create, the more you get in the index. But if nobody's interested in looking at those pages, Google knows, you know. So you take 20 million pages from one black hole and put them into another, you know. So I think it is, again, a very interesting thing that you do need to analyze and fully understand that it's not about the quantity. It is very much the quality of the page and what the content is and how it links to everything else within the site.
Well, one difference about my current employer is that it's won an award for being one of the best places to work in. It gives us so much flexibility. We can work from home if we want to work from home, or work anywhere in the country.
I saw you posted on Facebook recently, rare visit into the office. I saw that. Yeah.
We have staff members who will go to their family in Asia, in Philippines, India, whatever, and work from those places for 3 months, 6 months, because of a family situation over there. So the company is extremely understanding, and the employees are equally understanding, and they will start their work day like 4 in the morning, their time, just to make sure that they are working in Australian hours. And that way, the company doesn't care whether you're in the same city or in the next. So now we are hiring people in different parts of Australia without a thought.
So here's a great question. Can you get me a job at your place? It is great seeing you, Ash, and I hope we see each other at the next conference, and best of luck with the next 2 books. And if you need any help figuring out the title, you know where to come.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Great seeing you. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Thanks again to Ash for taking the time to catch up, and I do give my 100% recommendation. Buy this book. It's a gold mine of useful information that should sit there on your desk right next to you. Zoom over to Amazon and pick up your copy now.